Hello and welcome to Don't Feed the Geeks, presented by the Long Island Comic Guys, the masters of the geeky verse. Well, welcome back, geek freaks, for our 51st episode
It doesn't
titled
ring as nicely as 50, but
titled Role-Playing Games, the video game kind.
a little of the kind of sprinkled in there.
I am TC, joined as always by JJ.
What up?
And Toy Story.
What up?
I said it first.
That's usually my thing.
These knuckleheads. We'll be getting to our main topic of RPGs in a little bit, but first we're gonna, as usual, start it off with the Geek Beak. Mr. Toy Story, would you like to take it away?
Lots of news. This is the most points we've had in a while, I think. My goodness, we just kept adding.
I think we cut out last week because we were the 50th episode.
Yeah, we had so much. Yeah, it's crazy. All right, so the biggest thing this week, it's crazy. So, I mean, this was obviously probably expected, but Disney's delaying all their movies, the Marvel movies again. So, new release dates for Black Widow, it's going to be May 7th, 2021. Shang-Chi is going to be July 9th, 2021. And Eternals is going to be November 5th, 2021. This is interesting because originally Eternals was supposed to come out before Shang-Chi. So they actually switched the order there.
That's interesting.
But I know there was rumors that Black Widow was going to go to Disney Plus. What I think happened is they saw that Mulan didn't do as well as they would have liked, and they're like, okay, we can't do that, so we got to wait.
That's a bad litmus test if that's what they did, though.
Yeah.
Because the difference between Mulan and Black Widow is huge in my eyes. I'm sure there's a lot of people who bought it. The problem with that also was everybody heard just like, yeah, it's also just going to be on the app in 3 months. It was just like, then why am I going to buy it?
Exactly. No point.
$30. What was it? $30?
Yeah, $30.
Cool. I'll just wait 3 months.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I think if they would have gone that route with Black Widow, it's just like, cool, it's going to be on here in a year. Otherwise, I mean, you can't say like in 3 months it's just going to be.
Everybody would have paid for it, I think.
Yeah.
Would have seen it. Anybody who says they wouldn't is lying.
Listen, I'd like to see these in the movie theater, though. So,
yeah.
So what's going to happen? What's going to happen now with the shows? Because don't the Disney Plus shows coincide with the movies?
Yeah, well, that's something else that happened this week. So the WandaVision trailer came out. So very good segue, Mr. JJ.
Sorry about that.
No, it's perfect.
Segue.
So WandaVision trailer came out. No release date yet, though. It just says coming soon.
So I think it didn't just say coming soon. It said coming 2020.
Did it? Okay, I didn't know that.
So I think we're expecting it sometime in December from what I'm hearing.
So is it correct that Falcon and Winter Soldier was supposed to come out first?
I believe so. That's what I thought was supposed to. So I think that was supposed to come out in November.
Yeah.
But that, I believe, has been pushed to 2021. And that's also still shooting. Like, they're still doing reshoots because we recently had pictures of, like, Sharon Carter, new stuff of Winter Soldier, and somebody saw a shot of the guy from Captain America Winter Soldier movie, the Bat Rock guy, John St. Pierre, the UFC guy. Someone saw him, so he's back as that same character. So it seems like they're not done with that yet.
This is just it's a mess.
It's hard with MCU because of the whole order thing. The order matters so much.
It does. Yeah.
Which I think, from their point of view, they're like, listen, whatever, we'll just hold these. Like, I wouldn't rush them out if I were them. I was like, I know you have a lot of
loss this year. You'd be taking an even bigger loss if you release them.
Yeah, you don't want to play with, like, I mean, this is like gold. You don't want to just like flush it down the toilet.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it's upset. So what are your thoughts on why the Eternals was pushed further back?
I don't know why they switched those around. That's weird.
Reshoots, maybe something they didn't like.
Maybe, I don't know.
It could be that they put something in Shang-Chi so I think I was going to say that might be something in Shang-Chi that relates to Eternals, but I think Eternals is going to be kind of off on its own world. I'm actually really excited for all of these. Shang-Chi probably the most.
Yeah.
Because I freaking love the Mandarin, and I was so upset when like that fake Mandarin was in like Iron Man 2. I was like, because I loved like the Mandarin character in like that 90s Iron Man cartoon. I was like, this guy's awesome. And then it's just like, wait, what? I was like, he's not really the guy with the 10 rings that are like magical.
That's funny.
The Eternals seems cool. I mean, the cast for Eternals is just amazing.
It's
I really can't wait to see, like, this is going to be, I feel like it's going to kind of come out like Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, nobody's really knows what to expect at this point, and I think it's just going to rock it, in my opinion. And listen, it's just, I think those are really the ones that do the best for them, is like the low expectations. Really, nobody knows what's going on. I mean, just think about Ant-Man. Ant-Man was just like, all right, whatever. Ant-Man,
I love that movie when I saw it.
I think it might be one of the best MCU movies. Like, probably maybe, like, I don't know if I'd say top 5, but top 10 for sure.
Yeah. I think because it pleasantly surprised a lot of people too, because of those expectations.
Well, they also got the right people for it. I mean, Paul Rudd is fantastic in that role.
Yeah,
so it all depends on the person and the storyline.
Listen, I have to give them a ton of credit. I think there's been 1 or 2 castings at most, which I've been like, but otherwise, like, they've knocked all of them out of the park. I mean, like, especially like the heavy hitters. I mean, they're all perfection. I mean, Iron Man, Black Widow, even Nick Fury, Captain America. So Captain America, I was like totally against the beginning. I was like, freaking the guy who was Johnny Storm, because he was Johnny Storm.
Yeah,
like that. I saw him as like a wisecracking smartass. I was like, he can't be Captain America, and he crushed it. I mean, even Chris Hemsworth. I mean, he's perfect as Thor. I mean, you know, I don't like Captain Marvel, but everyone else is great.
Let's not go up that tree.
But we're not going to sing the song again.
What else we doing? What else we got?
Who wants to talk about Supergirl? Because I don't.
I just saw this last night. You know, I was a little disappointed that it's been canceled as of season 6.
So
season 6
was on for 6 seasons.
It's not. It wasn't. So it started actually on CBS, the first season.
Yes, that's right.
So it wasn't actually canceled, really. So what happened? So what I heard was the Melissa Benoit, or I'm probably butchering her name, her contract ended after season 6, and she's decided not to sign on again. So
that'll do it.
That's why the show is, I guess, just ending at this point. Listen, in the beginning, I was watching it. I probably stopped watching last year. So I felt like they were doing, like, and again, like, I know, like, the world we live in and everything, it's like, you know, there's a real push for, you know, inclusion and stuff like that. But it seemed like they were doing everything so, you know, statically. Nothing was like organic. The changes weren't happening. They were just like throwing stuff at you and to see what hit the wall. And I was just like, they made such major drastic changes to like the show. I mean, from when it was on CBS, and even more so like after a few seasons on CW. And I was just like, I just don't care for this anymore. It's just not good.
I hear you.
You know, it is what it is. I kind of stopped watching everything on that show.
Yeah, so have I.
Anyway, I mean, I was holding on. I still don't think I finished Flash, and I don't know if I'm going to go back. Flash was really my favorite one. The first few seasons were great. I mean, even Green Arrow, the first 1 to 3 seasons were really good, actually. And then, you know, that, you know, with that stuff too, it gets old after a while. It's tough.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. All right.
So a little news in the DC world, if we haven't talked about DC enough this month.
It's more DC, actually, because Supergirl's DC.
Yeah, well, in the DC universe, like the movie universe. So Zack Snyder is going to be bringing back some of the main cast of Justice League for reshoots this October. Specifically, Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, Gal Gadot, and Ray Fisher. So they're going to be doing reshoots for new scenes that he wants to add to the Snyder Cut.
But not Ezra Miller?
No.
So what happened with Cavill? Like, I thought he was just so against, like, done with Superman and everything else.
I never said that.
No?
It was them that were. So this all started because they didn't want to pay him or pay him properly to make that cameo in Shazam.
And which is why they didn't. They use the guy his face.
Yeah, so he refused to do it for. I think they wanted him to do it for free or for like next to nothing, and he's like, "No, I'm not going to do that." And they've been like mad at him this whole time. Apparently, this was all on their side, and he was the one who came out a while, like, you know, a couple months after that, is like, I'm not hanging up the cape yet. So, I mean, it was just very weird, that whole situation.
Oh, very exciting regardless, because I'd like to see more. You know, I can't wait to see.
He also hasn't confirmed that he's going to come back as Superman yet for like future movies. This is just a rumor.
Already an existing movie, so it's recent, so I guess it doesn't count. But...
Well, the rumor was that he signed on for 3 more movies, possibly 6.
That's insane.
Yeah. So this is like Robert Downey like contract almost.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm excited for this. I've been wanting to see this for a while.
Yep, me too.
I mean,
you're gonna watch it anyway.
Yeah, again, it's just like it happened. It's over already. Like, I don't know why we have to go back and dwell on this. I mean, if they're gonna change it so drastically, where it's just like this is gonna lead in. I mean, they're definitely taking steps in the right direction. I think this whole Flash movie could fix. If they do it right, they could fix the entirety of like the DC movie universe.
Yeah.
And again, if they do it right, because, you know, I'm not ready to, you know, completely say, you know, they know what they're doing. Because even when we were watching that, the DC fandom thing, you know, those guys were talking like, oh, we think it's fine to have, you know, multiple Batman and multiple characters in multiple universe, even movie ones. I was like, no. No, it's not okay. Like TV, like they should have all the characters should be on TV. I'm fine with that. But the movie stuff, like having like 3 Batman, like why are there 3 Batman movies out of that? Because people will just go see. That's this kind of stuff that's gonna ruin superhero movies. When you go, it's just like wait, there's 3 Batman movies coming out. It's like, so wait, this guy's playing Batman in this movie, and this, like, what the hell?
That's gonna turn away the casuals.
That's one. That's what's gonna ruin. Because, you know, you have all these people like, oh, these Marvel movies, everybody knows each other. They're all in the same movie. It's like the Italian guy. Hey, yo, these guys are all in the same movie, you know? Hey, Spider-Man. I'm Italian, so that's not racist.
Got it.
Nice. All right, moving on. Moving on. So HBO Max has ordered a Peacemaker show starring John Cena, with some of the episodes set to be written and directed by James Gunn.
What?
Yeah. So when I heard about this, I think Hudson actually posted this.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, whoever's at HBO must have gotten a look at his, you know, scene work early, and I was like, they must be really liking it. So I guess
I've seen John Cena in a few things, mostly comedies. He's hysterical.
He is funny on a comedy level. Like, thankfully he's doing it like comical, because I don't think I could see him in like a serious, like the serious stuff I've seen him in. It's just like, yeah, it's like I'm chasing down the bad guy kind of thing.
The comedies are hysterical though. I forget what movie it is. He played like an overprotective dad in one of them, of like a college girl, and he's like a big buff guy. He wears a fanny pack. It was so funny.
I mean, they've done so well with like a lot of these characters. I mean, like Dave Bautista does. I mean, like The Rock's in a whole nother category in his own. But like when they have like these big muscle guys come in and do this stuff, it's actually pretty funny, and especially when they come at it from like a comical viewpoint.
Yeah,
like I love that stuff. So I think I'll actually be willing to check that out.
Cool. Nice. What else we got?
All right, so this Kickstarter called Berserker by Keanu Reeves, Matt Kint, and Ron Garney.
Kickstarter, yeah. So I checked it. Yeah, it's a comic Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So I checked this the other day, and I think it was at 800,000. I was like, wow, that's amazing. Then I checked it today, and it's over 1 million. So it's 2,145%, and this is probably even still
ridiculous.
We're recording this 4 days before this episode's coming out. 2,145% over their $50,000 target. Now
it's at 1,100,000 right now.
Yeah, I think they knew that it was always going to be this high, because the what are those unlocked things, like the goals, where the reach goals or whatever they're called. JJ, you know what those are called? You're all over Kickstarter.
Yeah, the tiers.
Yeah. So there's one that's $1.1 million, and there's like still one more left. So it's probably like $1.5 million. So I think they were always expecting it to raise like this much money. But
so I'm just looking at it right now. It's interesting. Did you guys back this at all?
No. The book's coming out on February 17th. So there was one. There was
definitely gonna come out in comic shops too. I'm sure.
Yeah, no, it is. It's going to be released by Boom officially.
Boom
so
puts out some awesome stuff.
Yeah, but the premise looks awesome. It has like it's like this.
Keanu Reeves is co-writing it, right, with Matt Kent.
Yeah, and I mean, you can tell he's like setting this up for some type of movie already.
Oh yeah.
But there was like a version, like one of the
Ron
was like you get like something signed by him. Like two of them had like signatures from Keanu Reeves, so I'm sure those went right away. And there was only like I think like 15 of those or something like that.
Yeah, those are all sold out.
Yeah, but those were like what $2,000, right?
Is that the $2,500?
Yeah. So there was $2,500, and the one before that I think also came with a
that was 1,000
signature as well.
Yeah, wow.
This looks cool. I'm gonna read this for sure.
Yeah, it looks interesting.
Awesome.
It sounds almost kind of similar to it's not. I keep saying The Order, but it's not The Order. What's the Charlize Theron movie that came out recently?
Oh, The Order.
Is it The Order?
Yeah, I think that's The Order on Netflix, right?
Yeah, it seemed like a cool like thing where they could like exist in both worlds. So I was like, man, maybe a crossover in the day.
Wow. Nice. All right, that's cool. I'll have to check that out.
The Old Guard. I knew it was.
The Old Guard. And we just watched that. Did you guys see it? It's actually pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
I want to see more.
7.
Yeah. Cool.
Nice.
All right.
Moving on into a little bit into the video gaming world, right?
Yeah, we're pushing into there.
This is massive. So this week it was announced that Microsoft is buying the parent company that owns Bethesda, a massive video game development studio, for $7.5 billion. And for reference, that is $3.5 billion more than Disney bought Star Wars for. It's crazy.
Look at the gaming catalog from them.
It's not.
I mean, it's huge. I mean, we got Skyrim, which is huge.
Yeah, Bethesda owns Skyrim, Dishonored, Elder Scrolls, Wolfenstein, Fallout, Doom. It's crazy. So this nobody knows for sure what the because Bethesda was obviously a multi-platform studio. They have exclusives coming out for PlayStation next year, which Microsoft already said they're going to honor those exclusives. And they said going forward, they'll determine that kind of stuff on a case-by-case basis. So,
can you imagine if like they don't like have those games available
for
PlayStation? I mean, I'm sure that's why they did it. But
yeah, no, but Microsoft's lately been very good about like all the platforms like working together. Like they work with Nintendo a lot, and they've actually released a lot of Xbox games on the Switch. So, I mean, I don't see them.
Yeah, but what's the marketing fees for that? What's the licensing fees on that?
Who knows?
It's funny because I didn't realize. So I knew like video games was a big business. I didn't realize how big. Like
that was that number big
until we watched that video game
High Score.
Yeah, High Score on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wow, like there's a lot more money in here than I realized. It's like billions and billions. So who owns Fortnite? Because as soon as I heard this, I was like, these must be the guys who own Fortnite. Who is it?
No, it's a company called Epic.
Epic.
Okay. And they're their own thing, right? Nobody owns them. I would be willing to bet $1,000 Sony buys them.
Could you imagine?
I would be willing to bet it.
They're having issues with, from my understanding, with Apple, right? Because they don't want to pay the fees.
Who, Sony?
No, Epic doesn't want to pay the fees to Apple.
Yeah, for Fortnite on the iPhone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. We'll see if that happens.
Interesting stuff, though.
Good stuff.
More video games, though, right?
Coming up, yeah. So PS5 and Xbox Series X pre-orders went live, and both were steaming disasters. Very few people being able to get consoles. Every website crashed. They didn't have enough. I heard that every single GameStop only got allocated like 6 systems each.
Yeah, but the problem with that though was the problem was that all these retailers sold it the night before, so they were supposed to go live.
Yeah, they went live early.
They went a day beforehand, so everybody wiped everything out a day beforehand. So when people like me didn't know that they were put this stuff out, a day before, went to go buy one, they were already sold out. It is what it is. But who really wants to buy the first few ones anyway? There's so many bugs.
Yeah.
I'll wait.
Exactly.
Agreed.
I mean, the launch. We might as well talk about this. So the launch games for the PS5, there's not even that much. There's one game that's exclusive to it. It's called Demon's Souls.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only one that's exclusive that's being released that day.
Is that part of the Dark Souls line?
Yes. It was the first game before Dark Souls, actually. So this is a complete remaster.
Oh, so it's just a prequel remaster. So it's not even a technically new game.
No, but it's completely. It's like they completely redid the game. Like this, it looks nothing like it.
Yeah, I'm sure, but it's still the same game.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. All right.
We'll see what happens with these systems. I mean, more people are gaming on PC lately, so
it's easier that way right now.
Mm-hmm.
On that note, Super Mario 3D All-Stars.
I picked it up. You did, JJ, right?
I picked them up too. Yeah, I don't play it. My boys play it.
Yeah, I played all of these games except for Galaxy, and I had a Wii. I don't know why I didn't play Galaxy, but it's just so cool to play them handheld.
It's tough because my boys are like, "Hey, Daddy, do this," and I'm like, "I've never played this. What am I doing?" So yeah, it's a
Which
little
one are they
annoying.
playing?
Galaxy.
Yeah.
So these are all pre-release games. They're just on the Switch now. Is that what it is?
So Super Mario 64 from Nintendo 64, Super Mario Sunshine, which was on the GameCube, and Super Mario Galaxy, which was on the Wii.
So the big difference about this, though, is Nintendo did a limited release. So this game will only be available both hard copy, little disc, and digitally for 6 months. After that, they're pulling it out. So you've got 6 months to buy this game somehow.
Mm-hmm.
What Nintendo did like a couple days before it was released was they started pulling back copies of the hard copies and telling basically a lot of orders got canceled because they're trying to push all this stuff to digital. They want people to digitally download these things because I guess they don't make a lot of money when it's on a cartridge. They have to pay for the fees and everything to get the cartridges made. But if they sell it digitally, they get 100% of
it's
the
BS
fees
because the cartridges are the same price as the digital game.
Yep.
So they make so much more off of digital. I've always said that digital games should be like $10 cheaper than physical.
At least. Yeah. All right.
I beat Super Mario Brothers 1 yesterday.
Did you do the warp zones or did you do it real?
I did warp zones, yeah. I have time for that. I think I beat it in like 45 minutes.
All right. Well, we've gone
over our little news.
Yeah, we did over 20 minutes on this.
Yeah. Sorry. I don't even think we have a topic to talk about.
What's the last news?
So this is actually the most important news to at least us. So we have been nominated by Best of Long Island for the podcast category 2021. So a round of applause, gentlemen, for all our hard work. Thank you to all those who nominated us. I mean, we're not going to lie. We nominated ourselves to some degree as well. But we know there were people that helped us out there. Wow, my eye looks so weird. But yeah, the voting opens October 1st. You can vote once a day for, I believe, 75 days. So we're going to be sharing all that information on how you can vote on Instagram and Facebook and all those places. But if you enjoy this podcast, if you like what you hear, we'd really appreciate if you took a little bit of time and jumped on their site and vote. I think it's the site is bestofli.com. And that would be extremely appreciated. So we're really excited. I don't know when the award is officially given, but I guess we'll find.
It's very exciting. I mean,
so I think there's normally like a banquet and everything and stuff like that. At least there has been in the past. I don't know if there's going to be another one. And listen, there's so many jokes about it's just an honor to be nominated.
Yeah.
And, listen, honestly, we'd love to win, but like to even be, considered in something like this is actually really cool to us. So
yeah,
we do truly appreciate it. We do put a lot of hard work into this podcast and all the content we put out there. So we appreciate a little bit of recognition. So and we appreciate that you guys enjoy it. So please, if you do get a chance, starting October 1st, just get out there and vote for your favorite podcast on Long Island, mainly us. And if it's not us, I don't think you have to vote until like December. There you go. All right, so on to the main subject, gentlemen. Our favorite RPG.
Love this.
So this is not a rocket-propelled grenade. I just recently found out.
Oh
no.
Oh yeah, RPG launcher stuff.
Yeah. So that's what I was familiar with. I grew up in the '80s. RPGs was a thing. Arnold Schwarzenegger always had one or two lying around. But yeah,
this was inspired by #1 High Score, the show, because that RPG episode I think was all of our favorites probably out of that, and also you, Mr. TC, finishing Final Fantasy.
Yeah, right? I guess so. It was a tough game.
Can you want to talk a little bit about that to kick us off?
So, I never really gotten into any of the Final Fantasies. I think my cousin for like the first PlayStation had 7, which I know, people say such amazing things about.
That's the one the remake just came out this year for.
Yeah, no, I heard that. But so I never really got into it. So it was weird because I wasn't really a big fan of like that stop combat type of fighting. So the game like looked amazing at, back then. I was like, oh, this is cool. And like you move around and like, wait, this is how you fight the guy? Because like, we grew up playing like side-scrolling games where it was like physical, like, hand-to-hand fighting. I was like, oh, this is weird. But I've enjoyed like a lot of the other games like that. And it was like, we hadn't played D&D for a while. So that's really why I was like, you know what, let me give this Final Fantasy thing a try. Because of High Score, they kind of showed what the game looked like. I was like, oh, this is actually different than what I expected.
What'd you expect?
I wasn't sure. I was thinking probably it was going to be something similar to like Pokemon, well, which it really is, or like Zelda.
It was like you're in an open world, you're on an adventure, and you meet enemies in the thing, and you do turn-by-turn combat.
Exactly, yeah.
How'd you find the graphics? Because I know NES graphics are a little.
I grew up on those, so it wasn't anything that was, it was kind of what I was expecting. It was about on par. I've seen, so it's funny because on the NES alone, like you see, like I think it's like 16 or 8-bit for like Super Mario 1, and I think this game was the same thing. It was like
they're all 8-bit on the NES.
But then you get to like Super Mario Bros. 3, and I was like, whoa, this is definitely. I think they like almost knocked it up to like 16-bit by like that.
Yeah, by the end of that NES's life cycle, they were pushing it. They were putting chips on the actual cartridges because there wasn't enough power in the actual system.
Yeah, so I mean, it was fun. I enjoyed it. It was definitely hard. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I watched like videos on like what
you have to with those early games.
Because I was just like. It's just like, oh, the princess was stolen. I was like, cool. It's like, oh, the guy to the north has a castle. We think she might be there. I was like, the north? I was like, this is a huge open world. What do you mean the north? Yeah. I was like, yeah. I mean, I think there was like some things where, I wasn't watching the videos for it, but for the most part, like I had like the whole, and like I had like, like, the other things open up too, because when you bought this game too, like it came with maps and like there was a lot of stuff involved. I had to have like a map open, like I was bringing up like which character, like I was cheating for sure. Like I was like which characters were weak to what types of magic and all that crap. I was like,
we're adults, we don't have time for all that stuff.
Yeah, I was like, I just want to beat the game. I was like, I'm not a little kid anymore, spending 16 hours on a game and like getting 2 seconds into it. I mean, I put maybe like 11 hours into it though.
Yeah, that's good. I think that game and a lot of the Final Fantasy games were the most influenced by D&D, which obviously they're the original RPG before videos. Mm-hmm. So
I think any kind of dungeon crawling type of RPG game was inspired by D&D.
So I think we're getting a little ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, let's back it up.
So I guess for anybody who doesn't know, like I'm sure there's plenty who do, but like let's start with what exactly is RPG and what's kind of cool about it.
So it's the actual definition I always found was a little weird because the actual definition is a game in which players assume the role of characters and undertake an adventure in a fictional setting, which at face value sounds like every game ever, essentially. But I mean, RPGs generally, since the beginning, have the common elements of they're an open world. You know, you do quests. There's a main quest and a side quest. It's very story driven.
Yeah.
You're fighting enemies. You're in the open world, and especially like the character leveling up and stuff. You level up your character. You customize. You learn skills.
You develop them.
Character development, yeah. So you're learning skills. You pick different classes and everything. So those are the
pick up along the way.
Yeah. So those are the most common RPG elements. So a lot of like the subgenres, like action adventures, dungeon crawlers, they all borrow those same elements, but you know maybe they'll twist them a little bit to make them kind of in a different genre.
And you also have two different categories within this. So you've got your standard regular game where you're walking along and you attack, and then you've got your I'm going to say your role playing where you turn based. It's a turn based game where you attack, you attack, they attack, you attack, they attack. So it's taking turns. So there are two different distinctive RPG type of games.
Yeah. Well said.
Okay.
Somebody's got to be ready to talk it.
I was waiting for somebody to say something. All right. So side quick. Yeah. So RPG, where are we at? Like the sub-G?
I mean, there's a million different kinds. So I mean, I think the most common is like action adventure.
Okay.
So which would be Final Fantasy. But again, Final Fantasy also falls into fantasy RPGs and a little bit into Japanese RPGs because it comes from Japan. But I think the quintessential action adventure one is Zelda. Right? And I think we've all played some sort of Zelda game.
And at the time, like I didn't know what an RPG was. Like that's probably the first RPG I'd ever played.
Yeah, it was just like an adventure game.
I mean, that's like one of the earliest games. And I just swear to God, again, last week, first time I ever beat it.
Really?
Really?
First one, yeah. I never got the whole way through as a kid. And I think I'd probably gotten through the first like 6 castles. And then first of all, I couldn't find like the last 2. At one point, there were certain things like you didn't know you had to get. And again, like just like the Final Fantasy game, is like, how am I supposed to know that I need this random raft?
Yeah,
to this area, and like when you're in those castles and going through stuff, you don't know where all the hidden rooms are. Like you can beat that castle, get your piece of the Triforce, and get out of there without getting like an essential piece of equipment for later in the game.
And I think that's what makes these games more fun because you have to. It's basically you're exploring everything.
Yeah.
Now is when you don't know what you're looking for or where to look for it.
It's the best feeling when you accidentally find it, and they're like, "Oh, I needed that 6 hours ago. I finally got it."
And that's why I think a lot of these games have like a percentage on them. Like you found 30% of the world or whatever, and then you got to go back and feel like, even though I finished the game. I got to find the other 80% of this.
Doing that with Lego Batman. I mean, I've done it before, but for some reason, my save got lost. Oh, you know why? Because it was on the PlayStation that broke. That's why.
There you go. So Zelda's interesting because it's an example of one of those games that's I could definitely consider it RPG, but it's less traditional RPG because you're playing as Link. Link doesn't really level up. Link generally has one sword.
No.
But he levels up his sword though, so you got different types of swords
and stuff. But
not on the level of like other characters. Not like when you're comparing Final Fantasy, like the player level ups and weapon changes are nowhere near the same thing.
Yeah.
But there's like he's like 3 different types of swords. There's a couple different types of shields. There's things that get, and that's why I think it's not a turn-based game.
Yeah.
He's got like certain types of magic. I mean, his magic is basically his sword like shoots a little laser blast at him. That's his type of magic. Yeah. And the enemies too are all like pretty easy. Like it's really like just finding. I mean, the 2 hardest enemies in the original Zelda game are those freaking stupid knights who you have to stab in the back. Yeah. And there's like blue ghosts. I mean, outside that, the bosses are nothing.
Yeah.
Like those guys are the easiest ones to fix, especially later in the game. Like the boss, like the last guy you face, like it's some pig looking dog, and it's just like he goes invisible, but like you just keep stabbing your sword throughout the whole thing and you kill him.
And here's a game here. So I'm not sure if did you guys play Zelda 2, which turns into a side scroll game.
That I tried to play that afterwards, and it's trash.
It's trash. Yeah, it kind of went downhill.
That's the only one I haven't beat, actually. The only Zelda game.
So you can beat that in like 2 hours, apparently.
Yeah, I just was bored. Got by it.
Yeah, it's not enjoyable. It's not a fun game.
Yeah. So the most RPG one and my favorite game of all time is the newest one, Breath of the Wild, that came out in 2016 or 2017. So Jim, did you play that?
It's tough.
It's the most open. It's a giant open world. There's much more character choice involved with like because it's more than just 3 swords. You could have there's like 100 different weapons and shields and stuff. You could cook food and make potions and do that kind of thing. So it's very, very customizable, and it's incredible.
I love that, and I also hate it at the same time because, I mean, one of my favorite games, and this is when I really started realizing that I enjoyed RPGs, is when I got the first Dragon Age game, and I think it was Origins, and I bought this, and I tried playing it for like 5 minutes. I was like, this is freaking awful. And I randomly happened to be working with some guy. He was actually a temp, and he was like doing like random stuff for us. And I was telling him, I was like, yeah, I have this game, because apparently he was like, he did probably something similar to what we do, but for video games.
Oh.
And I mean, before we were ever doing this, and he's like, dude, that game gets so much better. He goes, you have to keep playing it. I was like, really?
The problem with a lot of these games is they're like 60 hours long, but they take 10 hours to get going.
Yeah, well, this one was like 3. Like the first one.
So you brought up a great point there, because one of the biggest games that did that was Skyrim. I mean, or even Elder Scrolls, where you create your character basically, very, very basic. You started your game off in basically a prison, and it's probably a good I'm going to say an hour or 2 before you actually start the game, where credits actually roll.
And then say, Elder Scrolls.
But that first hour is basically getting the lay of the land of the controls. So it's basically a tutorial of the game. But the problem with this is you can't, if you want to start up a new game, you still have to go through this. So even though if you've invested 60, 70 hours into this game, you're like, you know what? I want to create a wizard. You create this character, and you still got to go through this initial hour-long tutorial.
I did it many times with Dragon Age, where I was like, I think I got like maybe 20% through the game, and I was just like, It's like, I really don't need this warrior because I have 2 other in my party. It's like, I could really use a combative wizard, though. So, like, I had to start all from the get. I was like, I was so mad.
So here's something I'm curious about. So Dragon Age, I assume, I never actually played it, but there's a main quest, right? I'm sure.
Yeah, so you see, that's the thing I like. So I like to have options. So the game in the beginning, it was really good, but the problem was the control. So it's not turn by turn. It's more like it kind of is, but it isn't. I don't really know how to explain it.
It's open world, like you just fight enemies in real time, right?
Yeah, you fight. It's real time fighting, but it's also like, at least in the first one, it's like you hit him, but then he hit you, but it wasn't like the same thing. By the third game, the one that I actually have like 10% left. I don't want to beat it yet. But really, by the last game, Inquisition, they really improved it. But it's really good. It's just, I don't know where I was going.
Do you do the side quests or just the main quest?
Oh yeah. So I like to I want my character to be at its very highest level available before I'm going into that last boss.
Yeah.
Like, I don't power through like the main story just to get, because like that's probably very short in hours, but then again, like you might not be able to beat it. Like, so again, for like Dragon Age, for example, like there's like 7 or 8 dragons or maybe 10 in the entire, like, whatever it's called. Like, I don't even remember what the land's called. We'll call it like Thetis or Midgard or something like that. But there's like 8 or 10 dragons in that world, and you don't have to kill them all. Like some of them will give you stuff that you need, but you could finish the game and not probably kill like more than 50% of them. But of course, I'm going to kill all of them because there's like a throne room where it shows like all the skulls, of course. But then you also get, so this is like how you were saying about Zelda, where you get like so many different things. So this is the point. So in the beginning of the first games, it was like you were getting items, and then you could like make a couple things, but it was like basically everything you got, you picked up. Now, by the second game, they took a lot of customization out, which I hated, but it was still a good game. Now you can like make weapons, you can like make armor, like you're finding materials like oh, you want dragon bone because you can use this, and it's like it protects against fire. Like it's like, it gets to that degree. That's why I was a little bit frustrated when we were playing D&D the other night, and there was like I have these like specific like elemental spells, and it's like, does this guy have elemental weaknesses? And like the DM was like, what do you mean? No. I was like, certain guys should have elemental weaknesses. Even in Final Fantasy, this guy was weak to fire. I have a multi-elemental weapon where I can choose the type of damage I want to do. The chromatic orb, right?
Wow.
But yeah, so I like the customization, but I also want like there to be a guide. Like I don't want it to be like it's so open where like you don't know what's going on or where to go. Like
the new Zelda was like that. They put you in like literally naked, just wearing shorts, and we're like, okay, go, figure it out.
And there was like no like you have to go here or there.
You got to figure out. There's no tutorials. There's nothing. You have to figure out that you can, set fire to the grass, and then it creates wind, and then it makes you fly. So you get up to this area. You can't. It doesn't even tell you where to go to get clothes or anything like that. But
I personally like that. I like that in these games because you're developing your character to be the best that you want him to be.
But I do like them with the main quests when there's a guide telling you, okay, if you want to progress the story, you go here. I don't like having to search for like if I want to just move along.
So that's the thing too. Like I don't mind that, but like I at least want someone to say, is this like, hey, you might want to start a fire. It's like, all right, so let's at least figure out. Like, I don't want to play for like 6 hours naked on some island. It's just like, I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing right now. Like, that's also not fun to me.
Yeah.
Like, if there's like oh man, it's getting cold. I should probably start a fire. I was like, all right, cool. Like, if he just says that to himself, I was like, all right, cool. So I need to start a fire.
So the other thing that drives me nuts about these, so not nuts, but building out your character best you can, but also these games have achievements to them.
Yeah.
So making sure you get all the achievements, like it's
completionists. What?
Yeah. Well, worst nightmare, more like it.
Yeah.
Probably a little bit of both.
Yeah. Well,
So-
that's the same thing. Yeah. Go ahead, JJ.
So another realm of all this type of RPG, you've got your action based and everything else, is your online, your multiplayer online world.
Multiplayer online MMOs.
So I was huge into this.
World of Warcraft.
Years.
Did you play World of Warcraft?
I played World of Warcraft, but I was a huge EverQuest player.
I never played EverQuest.
Huge. I probably played it for 8 years straight.
So
Like
so
in
is
a
it?
row, or that's how much time you put into it.
8 years in a row. 8 years we were playing it.
So is it like the traditional like fantasy world?
Fantasy. Yep. So it's all server based. So this is a world where everybody in the planet can log into a server and you play. You create your avatar. You give it a name, and then you build your. Same thing with as a traditional RPG. You build your armor. You can find armor. Everything is story driven to where you get quests and everything else like that.
So, Jim, what on that side? Because I've never played any of those. So, on the story-driven stuff, is that like, are you playing against like a CPU, or are you playing against other players?
So NPCs, non-players. Yeah. So you are playing against our NPCs. So,
you can also do quests with like
if you do a quest, and you could do these either by yourself, or being it is online, you can get a group together. So if you do them by yourself, usually what happens is, you're on a quest. It tells you to go beat this orc up. You beat the orc up. You get a you wait 5 minutes, the orc is going to respawn for somebody else. If I've already killed him and it was part of my quest,
Gotcha.
give it a few minutes, it's going to respawn for somebody else.
So what happens if somebody like randomly shows up and starts beating on him while you're there? Beating on him.
It locks you out. Certain ones lock you out. So it all depends upon what it's for.
So big question here. Have you ever played with Leroy Jenkins?
That was World of Warcraft. Okay. But I did play. I liked World of Warcraft. It just got overwhelming with the amount of players. Yeah, and it just it still is. With EverQuest, I played EverQuest 2 more than I played the first EverQuest. But EverQuest 2 was just, I bought every single expansion pack. I played every day, anywhere from 5 to 8 hours a day. There were times where I think me and the DM, my buddy Bruce, we played for 15 hours one day. Like it was
addicting, right?
It was. I'm glad that I'm not doing it anymore because it is very addicting. And this is another problem that people have when they play these MMOs it's very addicting.
That's what Fortnite is, right?
And you're putting money into this. So you have to pay, a monthly subscription. And then, you can buy gold to buy better equipment. And, so it can get very overwhelming.
Yeah.
But I was a huge EverQuest fan.
I've only ever played one MMORPG. Have you guys ever heard of RuneScape?
Yep.
I played so much of that when I was a kid for like 6 years straight. And again, sunk so much time and, 10-year-old money into it.
I couldn't figure out how to play World of Warcraft online. I think I bought one.
I never got into World of Warcraft.
I was like, I don't know how to play this. So I was like, how do I play with other people?
Yeah. I was a beta tester before Dungeons & Dragons Online came out.
Wow, cool.
So, yeah, I got to play that like 6 months before it actually went live. So, it was kind of cool to play this. It was kind of hokey because there was a lot of bugs. But, I played that for probably a good 2 years after it came out. And it was decent. But then again, it just got overloaded with people. And then it moved to a free service where, you could play for free.
Yeah.
And once the game goes to that, I'm done.
Yeah. Did you ever play Star Wars: The Old Republic?
I played the Star Wars. So that was Old Republic, and Galaxy was the other one.
Yeah, there's a couple.
I played Star Wars Galaxy for about 3 years, in conjunction with playing D&D and EverQuest 2. Galaxies was great. I loved it when it first came out. Again, I think that turned into like a free game towards the end. And
these free games though, you could pay for like perks or whatever.
Yeah, I loved
like for RuneScape, it was free, but they had a members thing where you could pay $10 a month and do all this extra quests and whatever.
Yeah, I loved Galaxies because you can customize your ship. It was great. You had your own droids that you can have following you around and helping you attack, lightsabers and everything else. It got to be pretty cool to play that. I was a big fan of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what are dungeon crawlers?
Dungeon crawlers are fun. So it's essentially it's exactly what it sounds like. Like it takes place predominantly in a dungeon, and you're basically just exploring the dungeon and killing enemies and collecting items.
Case in point, I would say like a Doom style game is a dungeon crawler. I mean, they've had them, a Doom style game as a dungeon actually. So that's considered a dungeon crawler.
It's just like massive amount of enemies that you're like mowing down.
So one of my favorites, I'll give you an example. It's
called do you upgrade your characters and stuff like that? You get weapons? I know like
Diablo is a big one too. Big dungeon crawler.
Yep.
And what's that about?
You play? I've never played it.
Huge Diablo. I love Diablo.
Yeah.
So, but Diablo's it's kind of it's a monotonous game where you play a character. It's just a hack. It's a hack and slash. So you're just running around, just killing everything all over the place. You'll pick up health, your manta, which is magic, and you'll pick up weapons. You can swap them out. So all it is just a hack and slash type of game.
Yeah.
There's really no point, no rhyme or reason to it. It's one of those things where you put on some death metal music and you put this damn game on and don't think about anything else.
So one of my favorites is, and one of my favorite features of some of these. Have you guys heard of the Binding of Isaac?
I've heard of it. I don't think I played that.
So it's so the idea is you play as this little he kind of looks like a sack boy, but basically his mother or something is locking him in his basement, and his basement is this giant dungeon, and he has to try and escape from the dungeon. It's super weird, but the cool thing about it is that you basically do these runs. So it's basically how far can you get in this run before you die, and what makes it difficult is the dungeons are completely randomly generated every time you play. So a bunch of games are like that, randomly generated dungeons, but it makes it so that you could play that thing for 200 hours and never have the same experience twice.
So I was that I think covers kind of my next question. Like, are any of these are any RPGs say considered non-combat? Like, are there non-combat RPGs? Like that one sounds like
I think a lot of the Japanese games are.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of Japanese games. I was going to talk about JRPGs later, but there's a lot of the Japanese RPGs that are just like very, very story based. Like they're almost like visual stories.
So I remember I played when it first came out on Dreamcast and maybe PlayStation. Did you ever play any of the Shenmue games?
No.
I played like the first two, and it was like it was so, and I don't even know if it's an RPG because you don't really. There's nothing that you're really building up about the character, but it was like so basic. Like, so he had to go get like a job, and like he gets a job, and he's working like at a factory, and he's like and so like somebody killed like
that's totally an RPG.
There's an element where somebody kills his like grandfather or his father or something. So he's like trying to get back at these people, but it's like so monotonous. Like nothing really happens. Like you have to go like, oh, like you meet this girl for a date, and like, oh, you have to get money to like, so you're going and you're like doing this like, you know, menial job. And then at the end, there's like this like 5-second fight. But before that, it's like when you're fighting, it's like, you know, like action. I don't even know what they call it, but like when the button pops on the screen, that's when you're hitting it. That's when you hit the button. But then at the end, you actually have like a real fight where you have to like counter and do stuff. But that's like really the only time you fight. And I think the second one was a little better, but I think I fell off after that. I think there was a third one. I was just like,
I think those type of games I think they're more considered like adventure type games. You know, like Myst. No, like Myst. Myst is a huge. That could be like an RPG / adventure game. There's no combat, but it's mostly puzzles.
Yeah,
trying to figure it out, but. That could be somewhat I would consider.
A lot of the Zelda games are puzzle based too, so that's totally.
Well, even you know, I kind of like, and I don't think it's probably not an RPG either, but like the God of War games, I like those games. There's a lot of because even what's the other one where it's like you have to kind of like figure it out, like the Uncharted games, especially in the first one, there were puzzle based things where you had to like move things around and
Assassin's Creed,
Assassin's Creed, even the Batman games. There's stuff like there's things in there where you have to figure stuff out.
Regular action adventures,
because
there's no like specific character leveling up and whatever, and
right. And I think there's like kind of RPG elements to really every game.
So many games have.
And that's like the one I'm playing right now. I'm playing the Jedi Fallen Order, which is a puzzle / adventure / RPG. So I mean, I think everything's got at least some kind of RPG element to it.
Yeah,
totally.
And I think like so when I think of like traditional RPG, it's like I think of like how similar is this to kind of like D&D, because that's really the first role playing game, and that was
And even if it's not similar, does it have similar elements?
And to be honest, I think a true RPG type of game is like a D&D where it's turn based. It's got to be turn based. I always considered an RPG game was
turn based.
Turn based game RPG. You know, where you're taking turns, because basically that's how D&D is.
Yeah. If you're figuring out each turn, okay, what am I doing this turn?
The problem with that is like there's that type of combat doesn't appeal to everybody.
No, it doesn't.
And with the type of graphics, and I've grown to like it a little bit more, but I definitely prefer non-turn combat. Like, so I think it's called real-time combat as opposed to turn-based combat. So like with games like that have these huge, amazing graphics, and then you're like, oh man, this is gonna be an epic fight where, you know, there's strategy and everything to like how you fight and like which spells you throw at this guy and how you counter. And this is just like, well, it doesn't matter, you know, this guy's going to hit you with this thing and you're going to hit. So it's almost like a hack and slash, but like each person gets a turn.
So the game I'm playing right now, I'm playing Dark Souls 3, actually. Most recent one came out a few years ago.
My father-in-law was really into Dark Souls when it first came out. I don't know if he's
so hard.
He's like, I couldn't beat it. It was too hard.
No, in the tutorial, I died like 13 times before I figured out how to beat the tutorial. But it like makes you want to do it. But again, that's totally RPG because you're taking on you pick a class. You could pick like a knight or a warlock or whatever, but it's not turn based. You know, there's enemies scattered, and then with the boss, it's literally just like a real time fight with the boss, and you got to figure out the best way to do it. But it's fun, even though it's not turn based. I do like the turn based stuff, though.
Yeah, no, I like both. I probably lean more towards the combat, but they both have appeal to me.
Yeah.
So another one I'll bring it up a little bit because you guys definitely probably aren't into them is JRPGs because they're very interesting to me. So, what's that?
Go ahead, tell us about.
So, obviously, Japanese RPG. The thing that it doesn't just mean that they're made in Japan. A lot of JRPGs, and the perfect example is Persona, the Persona series. They take place like in modern day Tokyo or like Kyoto or something, and they kind of like follow Japanese tropes and like Japanese daily life. So like Persona, you're playing these Japanese kids in high school who discover that they have magical powers or whatever, and they got to go into some other realm to defeat this thing. But like half the game is you're just like making friends in Tokyo and doing things like going shopping and stuff.
This probably actually sounds like Shenmue, so it probably falls in that category.
So popular in the United States. It's crazy. People love them. And I sunk like 60 hours in that game. It was weirdly addicting. But that's a game like you were saying earlier. It took 15 hours to get anything started.
Yeah.
You know, before like it actually got going.
And that was the same thing with that other game. It was so frustrating. And I think that was one of the few games where it actually started off pretty exciting, but then the whole middle was like super boring. And I was like, what the hell's going on? Like, I don't want to have to like and like there's like, oh, it's nighttime. Like you have to go home and like you eat and then you go to bed and then you have to like you have to journey back to like where your job is. And like
so Persona is interesting because it takes place in days. Yeah. So at the end of each day, you have to do your things in the full day, or else you lose the game. And then at night, you go to bed. You wake up the next day. There's literally a calendar on the bottom right. It's
Yep. Same thing. Yeah.
It's super interesting. Yeah. One of my other favorite ones is: have you guys ever played the South Park games?
No,
I tried. Yeah.
The Stick of Truth was the first one, and then one came out a few years ago. It's called The Fractured Butthole.
Yep.
They are. If you're into the show, they are amazing.
This is definitely the moment where we use it for the preview when we're talking about
fractured butthole.
Butthole. No, two separate words. Hole. So they are. And another thing I want to talk about is like, how do you get into RPGs if you're not into them? Because I think they could be a little, intimidating, overwhelming. This is the best. This is the best game because it's essentially just a very long episode of the show. But with turn-based combat. Like the first one, the kids are wizards and stuff, so you have like all magical powers. The second one is actually totally superhero themed because they did it like after the whole Avengers craze. But it's hysterical. It's animated exactly like the show, and you play a character in the town, but you just go into turn-based battles and like doing stuff. It's awesome. And I think it's important. I think it's important for there to be accessible games like that for people. Yeah, because a lot of these games are so good, but within an hour they'd overwhelm certain people.
I think the problem with like that mentality though is that they know there's so many people out there who are already RPG people.
Yeah,
that it almost like that comes off as a little boring to them.
Yeah.
So like, are there enough like entry level people that are going to want to buy that game? So basically the reason you do it with something like that is because you already have a product that people like with South Park.
Exactly.
Like it's harder to do that with something else. Like I guess like to a certain degree, like could that Spider-Man game even be considered an RPG? Because there's
I feel like Grand Theft Auto is considered an RPG at this point.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like the different type, because that's something that I spent a lot of time. Like so I played a lot of I spent, like I said, side-scrolling early on. I played a lot of fighting games, and then I got into like a lot of like games like that, like where it was like the Spider-Man type game or like the Batman type games where it's like you have to do stuff along the way, but there is elements where you're like upgrading and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I think one of my favorite games, I'm pretty sure it started off on PC, but I played on Dreamcast, is this game called Silver. And it was like probably before Dragon Age, the first game I realized was kind of like it was probably the first time I realized what an RPG was. And you know, it starts off this guy, you know, some like there's this massive like, you know, overlord of this world. He's a magical guy and like he's looking for a new wife and he steals this other guy's like wife. And you know, you have to go off and like get all these magical orbs to be able to defeat him because he's like he has every type of magic, so you have to counteract him. So like it was along the way, and you get like there's literally like a monk character. It's like all these different type of characters that you need to help you but there's no real like you get like different weapons and stuff like that, but it was also like you couldn't like upgrade him like severely. Like you upgraded his weapons, but his character didn't really upgrade along the way. It was really the items that upgraded him, kind of like Zelda to a certain degree, where you weren't like really upgrading him, you were upgrading like his
sword, whatever.
Yeah. But I love that game. It was like probably I think I played it twice. I was like, this is so cool, and like I hadn't really played anything like that afterwards until probably Dragon Age.
Yeah. I also don't always have the head for these kind of games because of how involved a lot of them can be.
Yeah, and that's the thing too.
Like, so it's like sometimes you just want to play a Super Mario type game where you just go in and beat it.
And that's the thing. Like, you know, when you're putting one of these games on, you're also realizing like it's going to be a time commitment. Like, you're not going to go there and sit down for 30, 40 minutes. Like, if you're going to turn this game on and play, like, it's got to be, you know, you have 3 to like 15 hours, like Jay said, available to play.
And back when, you know, some of these games first came out, they didn't have battery packs inside of these things, so you had to play the damn game or do not turn off the machine.
Yeah,
because the save points weren't always there.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I was almost finished with Zelda and it just wiped the next time I turned it on.
Well, we're spoiled now because with those little devices we can do capture points on them.
I was doing that nonstop.
Final 6 back on the Super Nintendo back in the day. And I would do a whole 45-minute sequence and die, and then get sent back. Yeah. I'd put the game down. I can't do
that would happen to me all the time. I mean, I must have like smashed like at least 7 controllers against the wall throughout my career. I mean, I think I only broke 3, but there was definitely a lot of cracks. My mother's like, "What did you do?" I was like, "I don't know. Just I fell on it." She's like, "You're full of crap."
So one of my favorite games that I love so much. I played it so many times. Was Chrono Trigger.
Oh my god!
Back on the NES.
I was actually looking on IGN because I was like, I can't even remember all like the different RPGs, and I was scrolling through like the top 100. This is actually listed as number 1.
Yeah. And you can't find this. It's really tough to find if you can even find it now.
And it was only on Super Nintendo, right?
That was it. And
they re-released on like.
I have it for the iPad. Yeah. But this is a game where, you know, your standard RPG, you controlled up to 6 characters. And what I liked about this game,
the multi-character thing is cool. We didn't talk about that yet.
Yeah. What I liked about this game was, you know, your 6 characters were kind of from different eras in history. So you'll have somebody like in the prehistoric times who use, you know, prehistoric weapons. And then you had, you know, another character that was kind of a futuristic that had lasers. Yeah. So here we had a game where, you know, it's your standard RPG, one had a sword and everything, but you also had a character in your party that had a gun, you know? So it was a cool mixture of different types of characters set in a game where, you had to finish it. This game, I put so many hours into this game. It's great. When I found out that it was on the iPad, I was like, the first thing I did, I spent the $15. I was like, I'm buying this game. It's not the same, but it's such a great game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny when you say how, and you were able to upgrade like all those characters too, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. So the thing I fell in love with the first Dragon Age game is that not only is your character like upgradable and, you know, you can change the armor and weapons for that character, but the whole party. And I love that. And the thing that I hated about the second one was you could only do it to your character. like the other guys upgraded, but you couldn't change like their weapons or their armor. Like you couldn't change anything about them. And finally, thankfully with the third game, they fixed that again. But like, when you have like all these guys in your party, like you want to obviously upgrade. I mean, even with Final Fantasy, like you controlled the entire party, which was like awesome. And that was fun because like I like that, you could use like different characters. Like everyone had their own. Like you had the black magic, you had like the wizard, you had the barbarian, and then there was like the karate guy, the monk they called him. He was actually called Black Belt. I was like, all right, Black Belt.
It doesn't limit you to one type of character. It spreads it out, which is I love those type of games.
Yep.
Another big one we missed, I think, JJ, Knights of the Old Republic.
Oh yeah.
That's like the only like legit Star Wars RPG I think that's come out.
Yeah.
Did you play a lot of that?
That was before. That was after Galaxies.
Yeah, it's super. It's trying to play it now. It kind of holds up, but the graphics don't. I don't think the graphics really do. It's very blocky.
Yeah.
But it was like back when it came out, it was the big thing.
I think I had the box set of that where it came with the book with the art and everything else like that.
Mm.
You played
good stuff.
You what?
You did it twice.
It's like the 5th time you made that joke.
Hey, it's the right it's the right setting for it.
I guess so. All right, do we talk about enough games or?
Yeah, let's do this last one. I'm actually.
So I thought it'd be kind of fun since RPG is so wide-reaching and there's been so many different games across different themes and IPs and whatever. If you guys could like design a theme for an RPG that hasn't come out yet that you want to see, what would it be, and what would you put in it, or what would the world be?
Do you have one in mind, JJ? Because if not, I do.
I loved the space type of RPGs. Like I was a big, because I played so many types of dungeon type crawlers and everything else like that. I would love to get a space, like an MMO type of game again. I enjoyed sitting at my desk.
StarCraft, kind of.
Yeah. No, not to that degree, because and that's a whole different type of those types of game. That's kind of like a Rainbow Six, where you're kind of setting squads up to go out and do your thing. You're not really you're controlling them to put them at a set point. I don't do well with those type, but I don't know. Like I'm a big
with those Rainbow Six ones.
I can't stand those games. I hate them because it's just those are different type of Those are more of like a strategy type of game, but like an MMO, like an RPG where it's space driven, where you can build, a spaceship. That's what I loved about the Star Wars games. Like the one I'm playing right now, the Jedi Fallen Order. Like you could build lightsabers, and you can put different components in it, different colored, crystals and stuff like that, where you're able to, really fine tune a character and build everything from, the stuff that you're wearing to the stuff that you're using for your weapons to a vehicle. I'd love to see that type of stuff.
I'm going to piggyback off of you. I don't think this could probably be done for another 10 years, 20 years until computing power is like a million times faster. But I want a full-scale open universe Star Wars RPG game.
You're talking the Ready Player One level?
Yeah. Well, not even necessarily like where you go into it, but just something where you have the galaxy with a bunch of planets you can visit, space travel you can do.
I don't think it's that far.
The amount of computational power for that.
We totally forgot about this one game. It's called Eve.
Eve?
Eve.
I don't know if I've heard of that.
So Eve is huge. So Eve is an MMO type of game. It is it is an RPG / PV. It's a player versus player type of game. It's open. It's 100% open universe, planets, everything else you build. It's a huge world. This is one of those games where you see on the news where somebody will have a ship that they've built for 5 or 6 years. Like it was their ship. They actually put their own money into building this ship. Like you put your own credits, your own money into it to get credits to build it out. And then some doofus comes along and destroys that ship, and it's gone for good. And you can look it up online where there have been people in Japan who spent $1 million on their ship, and they'll go to some battle thinking that there's some hot pilot or whatever they're doing, and they lose it in the first 5 seconds. There's been news on this.
That's great.
But Eve is that world, Matt.
Yeah, I want that set in Star Wars where I could be a Jedi or Sith or something.
Huge. I would love that.
Oh my god.
I have a great one.
Go for it. Do it.
Master of the Universe themed.
Why not?
So it's sword and sorcery, but it's also set in like a futuristic world too. So there's lasers. So I mean, you have the sword, you have the shields, you have laser blasters. You have all this advanced technology, and then you have it in like this open world. And you can even lead it up to like maybe in the first the first version of it, you can have Skeletor, but then you can maybe go off into another like dimension or planet or whatever, and you could get like Hordak, and I think you could probably get like 3 games out of it at least. But cool. Yeah, like I was like, oh my god, I'd love that. Like I have never had a Master Universe game. Like there's one on my phone, an app that I downloaded, and that was the closest I've ever got to like a legit like He-Man game. There's been no respect for He-Man at all. I think there was something that came out on like PlayStation 2, and you could like only get in England. Apparently, the Master of the Universe like central hub of fans are like strongly based out in like the United Kingdom. Like
really?
The United Kingdom freaking loves Master of the Universe. But yeah, I don't even think that game like was available in the US like on the PlayStation 2 when it came out. It was very much based on like that next gen cartoon they did too. So I was like,
I think having constrictions on a game, like keep it open where you can go anywhere you want. Like if you want to walk forever and just go. Like I like that open world concept. That's
what was great about the last Zelda game. If you saw somewhere, you could go there.
Right.
Any place you see, you can get to, which I love.
And any type of game where that is built into it, it's a bonus for me, and that's why I like Skyrim so much. Because it's an open world, and and here's a game. It's a great game. Like you've got your main quest, you've got your side quests. You got horses. You could buy a horse. You could steal a horse. You could just take off running. When it's open that much, I mean, it makes it for me, it makes it more enjoyable. But that's me.
Very nice.
Yeah, good stuff.
What are you nodding at, TC?
I don't know.
Something I kind of want. You might appreciate this, JJ. But so there's this one game. I don't know if I've told you guys about it. It's called Holy Diver. Not an RPG. It's a platformer from like the Japanese NES. But it's based off of Dio, Ronnie James Dio. Jim?
Okay, yeah, I'm looking right at it.
Yeah, so it's basically like set in hell, and all the characters are named after like Ozzy and whatever.
This is an old game.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of like Castlevania.
Yeah.
But I feel like, and you would totally agree with this, in like the rock and metal world, there's so much imagery like that these bands have. I would love a game like based on all of that. All the big metal bands and stuff. Where the characters are based on them. It doesn't even have to necessarily be music based, but just like totally themed around them. I feel
like weird stuff like when those guys get into making games, like I mean all the music related ones, like you ever play like Michael Jackson's like Moonwalker, which I actually really enjoyed. But then there was like the Aerosmith game, like Generation X, where it was just like a shooter, and like I think at one point like shooting like laser disc. I was like, and they like just show up like these guys are dumping toxic waste into the water. We've got to stop them. It was like some like I think it was like something about like world pollution. It was like supposed to be some type of like anti like dumping like propaganda. I was like, what is this?
Some of them are all right. Like I was, now, I mean, this is good. This is going to take it in a totally different direction. But like the Guitar Hero, I love those games. Like I was.
Oh my god, yeah, that was my childhood heavily.
I was staying up till midnight playing this, and at the time I was like 40 years old.
So it was 20 years ago. I didn't realize it came out that long ago.
Wow, second time tonight. Wow. Oh my god.
Yeah, on that note.
All right, good talk, guys. That was fun.
So what we got coming up?
More episodes.
More episodes.
Do we know what we got coming up next, or we're going to wait to say?
I feel like we've gotten burned in the past when we mentioned our future stuff.
Yeah, let's not
do that.
Yeah, we got a lot of cool stuff planned for the rest of this year. Yeah, we got to make the next 50 episodes even better than all the first 50 combined.
We definitely think we have some interesting people in the pipeline, interesting topics in the pipeline. Again, we're going to be doing more video stuff too. Like if you're listening to this on a podcast, you can also, if you're listening to this via podcast, you could also watch it on our YouTube channel at, what's the name of the Long Island? Is it Long Island Comic Guys?
Long Island Comic Guys.
Yep. So we have.
They can search for also Don't Feed the Geeks.
Yeah. So we're gonna hopefully be putting up a lot of content.
Yep, we're gonna be launching book club again. We haven't decided when yet, but we'll have more information on that soon. And then we might be doing some other stuff, geeking out, box opening, stuff like that. I think JJ's filmed like 7 of them.
I've got quite a few.
They're not up yet, but
they're not up yet.
Got them filmed. Yeah, and then we might even do like a D&D live, or maybe not live, but recorded.
And I may and some of these box openings, I may not even be box openings. Like I just took down something I've had on a shelf forever, but it's a cool piece that people should see.
Highlighting, collectible items. That's a good idea.
There we go.
Toy Story plays all these video games that he tells us about, but he never shares any. People want to see it, Toy Story. They want to see what you're doing. What are you up to? What are you so secretly doing over there?
What are we doing this week?
Oh, reading Harry Potter. Are you really?
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know where to find us. If you haven't already, please subscribe everywhere. If you're not following us, please do that too. Do we have the little thing on the bottom of the screen?
Oh, I can probably do that. Do I have that? Yeah. It is queued up.
With Tom Travers information or something?
There it is.
At LI Comic Guys and at Don't Feed the Geeks for all your latest information. That is definitely where we'll be putting the information on where to vote for us for the Best of LI 2021 podcast. And, if you're so inclined, please, give us a rating, give us a review. Yes. We'd appreciate the feedback. Good or bad, we prefer good, but if there's something you want us to talk about that we haven't covered, let us know. It's something we're interested in doing. We're open to, new topics also.
Even if something we're not interested in, we should do it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's stuff, we had a meeting earlier that JJ and Toy Story brought up, stuff I didn't want to talk about, but we'll probably do it anyway.
We're going to do it.
But no, thanks again, guys. Stay tuned for more. But remember, until next time.
Don't feed the geeks!